Hey, your viewers and viewers, my name is General Red Strategist and welcome back to Sir You're Being Hunted. This is episode 378. So, I'm actually back on the same map as in the last episode. It's just going to be another podcast style episode, ladies and gentlemen, just because I need some Sir filler content on the channel actually in the meantime. So, hope you guys out there are all doing fairly well and all that. I don't actually know what challenge I'm going to be doing next for Sir. I'll have to have a look at my document at some point and see what the old deal is in terms of maybe what I can do. Then again, maybe I'll do a challenge that I've done before in the past, because I don't know, I've been looking at some of my past challenges recently and I've been thinking I may come back and perhaps do a bit more of them. At least that's just some thoughts. Because one actually that I did quite a long time ago was an old sniper challenge. Another one that I did was like a parkour assassin one on, rooftops of buildings, assassinating robots. That was, an enjoyable couple of series of challenges back in the day. So who knows? Maybe one day I'll come back and do them again at some point. I'm not entirely sure. We'll have to see, ladies and gentlemen. Depends how I feel and all that. Indeed, of course, if people want to suggest challenges to me in the meantime, feel free to do so. I always welcome challenge suggestions from my viewers and all that. But it's an interesting day today. It's afternoon, and I've pretty much just done my work-related stuff for the day, at least all the important stuff that needed doing today. So, after a day of work, I'm basically just taking the time to relax and all that, as you do. Let me drink some sherry whilst I'm at it. And, it's been an interesting day. I've been in seminars this morning, for example, talking about interesting subjects to do with war and conflict in the 21st century. Very good stuff. Particularly interesting subjects, but I'm not going to be talking about that because that's quite a heavy subject and all that. No, what actually, kind of relating to that whole overarching subject of international politics and all that, though. I'm sure everyone who's been following the news recently has, I say recently, as of when I record this is a recent news story. By the time this video goes out, though, it'll be an old news story. It'll be at least a couple of weeks old, so it won't be recent, as in, hugely recent. But it will have been within the last couple of weeks, that is. But, everyone been hearing about that friggin' container ship that ran aground, wedged right across the friggin' Suez Canal down in Egypt. Yes, what a bloody palaver that is, eh? But it's just a fascinating thing. Actually, it's just happened, in terms of... I think this is one of those things where people perhaps are maybe going to sort of realise just how kind of fragile the global economy can actually be. Because the thing is, that container ship, I don't know exactly how it happened. I think apparently it was like a technical issue or something. But it sort of ran aground at an angle in the Suez Canal, which is effectively blocking the whole canal and preventing other shipping from using that route. And essentially, for anyone who doesn't know, the alternative to using the Suez Canal, if you're, a ship's officer and you're taking, say, whether it's a container ship or a tanker or whatever, if you're sailing, say, from Europe to try and get to East Asia, obviously the Suez Canal is usually part of your primary route, because basically it means from Europe you just have to go down to the Med, across to the Eastern Med, down the Suez Canal, and then you're out into the Red Sea, and then out into the wider Indian Ocean, and from there you just head eastward over to East Asia and all that. So, it's a major shipping route and all that. But the alternative to the Suez Canal, if you wanted to, again, go from, say, Europe to the Far East, or indeed the other way round, if you didn't use the Suez Canal, your alternative would be to sail across the Indian Ocean, then follow the east coast of Africa south, right round the Cape of Good Hope, round South Africa, back up the western coast of the African continent, and then to Europe, which is a much, much longer distance to actually travel. And of course, the longer the distance, that means the more amount of money you're going to have to spend on fuel costs for your ships. Potentially the insurance premiums might be a bit higher. That means your sailors on your ships are working more hours, so you're going to have to pay them more. So yes, the Suez Canal was always the more kind of viable option if you wanted to keep costs down. If you're a shipping company and you want to keep costs down. And so of course, the fact that it's now kind of blocked at well, actually, I say it now kind of blocked. I don't know. I think I might have seen some news stories actually this morning suggesting maybe it's been released by now, but essentially, what it I think has probably really reminded people of is the vulnerability of the global economy to these kind of narrow shipping choke points, if you want to call it that, and how an accident in one of these could theoretically hold up so much global shipping that it would have an effect on the global economy, even if just for a short amount of time, and that could still cause quite a few problems, potentially. If it's shipping of supplies which certain countries, well, which are particularly important to certain countries, whether that's, food, or whether that's oil and energy and resources, whatever it may be, or just even, consumer commodities and goods. So it's a, really quite fascinating little development in current affairs, that. Because that's the thing, I wonder, because here's the thing, right, about me as an academic, my kind of research interests, or just general academic interests, are in all things to do with the maritime, so maritime security, maritime strategy, naval power, things like this, naval history. And the thing is, in my kind of field, sometimes you look at the way that people talk about the maritime, or the way it's discussed in, the media, things like that, and you think to yourself, does your kind of everyday person, how much do they think about the maritime in their everyday life? Because the thing is, like, there's a kind of thought experiment you can do. I mean, I may be paraphrasing it a bit, but think about all the things you do in your everyday life, the little things. So, whether that's getting dressed in the morning, whether that's the food you eat for breakfast, whether it's the car you drive to work, whatever it may be. Think about all these little things, and then think about where some of these products and things that you take advantage of in your everyday life. Think about, where some of them have actually come from. You might wear clothes, for example, that have been manufactured in a sweatshop in East Asia somewhere. You might use smartphones or other gizmos which have been manufactured in China or South Korea or Japan. You might drive a car that was manufactured in Germany or the United States or Japan or wherever. And it's interesting to think about, where do all of these commodities actually come from, and how do they actually get to the marketplace where you actually bought them? And usually the answer to that is, well, they probably came by sea. They were probably brought over in bulk, in containers, on container ships, or on auto carriers if it's cars that we're dealing with. Yeah, thinking about, where does all the petrol come from that fuels your vehicles? It comes from tankers that come from oil-producing countries all around the world. Maritime commerce is one of the cornerstones of a globalised economy and all that. And so to think about how that globalised economy can be affected when you have incidents or accidents like what has happened in the Suez Canal recently really kind of illustrates the fragilities in that system. I'm not saying that a globalised economy is necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, with any system there are vulnerabilities, there are problems, there are weaknesses that have to be borne in mind. But yes, I just thought it was an interesting topic, ladies and gentlemen, just from my own kind of personal angle, to put it that way. But that's also why there's kind of huge interest at the moment in places like the Northern Sea route, in the Arctic. As obviously Arctic ice recedes a bit, there's been kind of huge interest in that sense, in terms of the potential for new sea routes to open up in more northerly waters, which may offer alternate routes around the world at certain times of the year, things like that. It's all very fascinating, and I know it's very much a heavy kind of subject, and it's maybe not the kind of subject that lends itself very easily to a casual, informal chat whilst you're playing Sir, You're Being Hunted and all that. But, I find it interesting, and I do like to slip it in every so often. I know, for example, that Phil sometimes says to me, yeah, Andrew, don't know if this is really the kind of thing that your viewers necessarily want to converse about. But fuck it, it's my series. I'll talk about what I want to talk about. I dictate what I talk about, and since this is just a hobby that I do on YouTube for fun, since I don't, earn money off this, I don't have a monetized channel, I don't earn money on any of my videos, I'm not seeking to maximise ad revenue or anything like that. I'm just going to talk about whatever the hell I want to talk about, ladies and gentlemen, because I can. And I need no better reasoning than that. Alright. Sounds like a few of them guys are having a shootout somewhere. Apologies if my voice is a bit croaky or, a bit raspy or anything like that. Like I say, I've been in seminars this morning, so I've been doing a lot of talking. And so I thought, what's the best cure for talking a lot about heavy subjects in seminars? Well, talking about heavy subjects in So You're Being Hunted. So why the hell not, ladies and gentlemen? The perfect solution. Am I regretting it? I don't know. No, I wouldn't say I am, but I will probably be in a few more minutes' time once my voice really starts to pack in. That's the thing, though, about teaching at the moment, because obviously, with the COVID-19 lockdowns still in full swing, a lot of courses are still being taught online. And the thing is, teaching online is, it's different to teaching face-to-face, because the problem is, when you're in a face-to-face classroom, it feels like you can have more of like a free-flowing discussion with your students. Because, of course, right there and then, in that moment, when a topic of conversation is raised by the tutor, you can have lots of students automatically coming back on that point with responses of their own, and then that might immediately stimulate responses to other student responses from other students, which, if that makes sense. But, when you're doing things online, you're on some video conferencing software, whether it's Adobe Connect or MS Teams or Zoom, whatever it may be. Quite often, the conversation is a bit more kind of rigid and it's not as free-flowing. And the result is, that in order to try and maintain some kind of order in those kind of conversations, you have to use like the raise hand options that a lot of those kind of softwares have when, a student wants to chime into the discussion. They can just click that button. It notifies the host that they want to say something, and then the host can sort of go to them and say, okay, yeah, go ahead, have your say, or chime into the discussion. But the problem is, with that when you have a lot of people all raising their hands at once in an online seminar, the difficulty then becomes that you just sort of have to go down the line of people who've got their hand raised. And so the problem is, one of the students may say something that takes the conversation in a certain direction, but then several hands down the line, the person who then has their hand raised might, by the time the conversation gets around to them, the point that they were hoping to make might already be a little, I don't know, out of time, so to speak. It's like the conversation might have already moved on by the time you get to someone else. And that obviously just makes things a bit more kind of difficult, I suppose, with online teaching. Because, the conversation can sort of go back and forth a bit. So you just have to sort of manage that as best as you can. But yeah, I think it'll be good to go back to face-to-face teaching once the lockdown starts to ease up a bit. I mean, it all really just depends on this vaccine rollout and all that, and getting people vaccinated. But, my workplace, they've got their kind of target for when, hopefully, they'd be able to go back to face-to-face teaching. But all they can really say is just watch this space in terms of, whether that will indeed be the case or not, or whether it'll actually be a bit more difficult than that. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, ladies and gents. And I'm sure, that's probably true of a lot of organisations right the world over, whether that's in academia, business, civil service, whoever or whatever it may be. I'm sure it's similar kind of pattern elsewhere. Alright, I've been recording for, about 15 minutes there or so I think that's probably enough for a podcast-style episode. And we had a bit of a little interesting ranging topic of discussion there. We started off talking about friggin' that incident in the Suez Canal, then we started getting on to globalisation and maritime commerce. Then suddenly we ended up onto teaching and the difficulties of online teaching as opposed to face-to-face teaching and all that. So, interesting range of topics there. Alright, so yeah, hope you found that interesting, everybody, and hope you'll join me for the next episode of Sir when we get around to doing that. In the meantime, Facebook and Twitter links down below, along with a link to my propagandist channel for anyone who's interested in that. If you enjoyed, don't forget to leave a like, comment, subscribe, and all that jazz, and I'll see you in the next part, everybody. Goodbye, all. Cross the bridge. Right. Well, that was short, but this one should now be open, right? Yes, okay. That's exactly what we were meant to do. Hello? Oh god, there better not be a train that's... Where? Where's it coming from? Just go. No! Back up! Oh no! Wow, Simon Terminator Sergeant Freeman. Failure to preserve mission critical resources. Damn it! Oh, well at least I'm back here, right? How am I going to trigger this? There's a bloody train, that's what's going on. Can I, if I do it like this...